Right now, we're going to do some power ranking of some different things, head coaching hires, desirability of OC openings. But we're going to start out with ranking the eliminated playoff teams' chances to make Super Bowl 60. That'll be next year. Let's power rank these teams. If you want to go first, be my guest, Pete.
Okay, so I'm going to go just my number one. Or am I going to go through the list?
I got it. You
got a list, but how do we want to unveil it?
Let's go. You go all your teams in order. Or if you want me to start, I can go with my teams first.
Oh, I'll do mine.
Okay.
Bills, Ravens, Lions, Packers.
Yep.
Rams. I think that team's on the rise. Bucks.
They got to make a decision on that.
Chargers, Vikings, Broncos, Steelers.
Here's the deal. You started with the Bills, and I think that's a great spot to start because what was the gripe about the Bills this year is that they didn't have enough firepower outside of Josh Allen. Well, they're going to do their due diligence and be able to bolster that football team. I've got the Bills at number one, too.
Do they go get a receiver? Or is Cooper what?
I think Cooper is what he is right now.
Not very fast.
Cooper is what he is. So you're going to have to potentially go get somebody to help out with Khalil Shakir, Dalton Kincaid, and Amari Cooper.
And by the way, Kincaid was a major disappointment this year. Now we hear you see Dawson Knox said he had one knee that was a bad knee, and he's got it fluid all in the other.
Dawson or Dalton?
No,
Dawson said about Dalton.
Dalton never made the excuse. Dawson Knox came up and said, look, he had bad knee on the right side. They knew about that. He missed time with it. But his other knee has fluid all over it. And something's wrong with that one as well.
That's a really good teammate move by Dawson Knox because as Dalton Kincaid, you would never go out and make an excuse about something like that. But total homie move to be like, hey, there
had to be something wrong with him.
My guy was jacked
I was in training camp with them, and I watched him in practice. I thought nobody would cover him. I thought he'd cover catch 120 passes, and he didn't come close to that. So, by the way, that was a touchdown. If they block it right, if they slide the protection to the right, he is wide open.
He had to come back 6 yards for that football.
But and they even let him there was time they let him to make a play on the ball, but he's gone for a touchdown.
He's got to have that ball.
He's got to catch it.
He's got to catch it.
Oh, he's got to catch it.
That sucks. I'd probably between Mark Andrews and
Kincaid.
I don't know who I feel worse for.
Well, one was an easier catch.
One was a layup.
One was an easier
and
catch.
one was a toss-up.
Yeah. Well, the other one, he's actually running in that direction, so he has to come back and turn around. Mark Andrews' catch was a lot easier.
Yeah, that's tough. So I've got in my order, I've got Bills, Commanders, Ravens, Lions, Packers, Texans, Vikings, Chargers, Broncos, Steelers.
So we're in agreement. We're in agreement on the Steelers being the bottom of the group.
Yeah, we are.
Well,
until proven otherwise.
Right. And they weren't very good this year. They just kind of won games somehow. You look inside their numbers, they didn't do a lot of things well. And who's the quarterback? That's the question.
And I've got the Broncos obviously ahead of the Steelers. Great offensive line, a young quarterback who has been on the up and up. And then I've got the Chargers ahead of them. I think that the playoff showing that we saw from the Los Angeles Chargers was a bit fluky. They were flat. They were outmatched. I think with everything going on in Los Angeles, it could have served as a pretty big distraction. Obviously, the Rams weren't distracted by it. But this Chargers team, for some reason, was flat against the Texans. Justin Herbert peed down his leg a little bit.
Who plays quarterback for the Vikings?
I've got the J.J. McCarthy playing quarterback.
And you still have him ahead of the Chargers, huh?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, see, I don't. I'm not enamored with J.J. McCarthy like everybody else is.
You know what? Let's just find out. I mean, I had to put him on the list somewhere. Texans, I heard Chip Kelly is a hot name for offensive coordinator.
Might go to Jacksonville too.
That would be awesome.
Coach. They're kind of battling for him from what I hear.
And you know what? People bitch all the time about Chip Kelly. I hear former players complain about. I'll tell you what. I'm a former player of Chip Kelly, and there wasn't a game where I stepped off the bus to go into the stadium where I didn't think we were going to beat the shit out of another defense.
Prepared, right?
Because we were prepared. Right. And he's the guy that got into my head. You sink to the level of your preparation when times are tough, like the Navy SEALs, like Special Forces. When the one helicopter goes down, and we were supposed to have two. Well, we got one helicopter down. Let's go make this thing happen.
No, he's not warm and fuzzy or none of that. He's by the book.
Like any great offensive mind, he's a bit socially awkward at times.
Yes.
But my God, you never doubt the fact that he loves his team and he loves to win and he wants to score a lot of points. I love that about Chip
By the
Kelly.
way, before we get back to this, we've seen a lot of socially awkward, bright offensive minds in the last week, haven't we?
Yeah.
Ben Johnson looked very socially
Liam
awkward.
Cohen.
Liam Cohen looked no, it was more like they both look so socially awkward, and yet you talk to people around both of them and they're not. I don't think they remember Sirianni when he got his job, he was socially awkward too.
Adam Gase's introductory press conference. Yeah.
I mean, and having talked to Adam Gase over the years, he wasn't socially awkward at all.
Easy to talk to.
Right. So I just think it's different. And that's why we can't judge these guys based on what they do in front of the camera.
So, the bottom of the list, I've got Steelers, Broncos, Chargers, Vikings, Texans, and I've got the Texans in there because I'm assuming their offense is going to be better next season with C.J. Stroud at quarterback. They're going to shore up some of the issues they've had on the offensive line. We like the defense. I love the edge rushers. Packers are up here in the top 5.
They changed coordinators too. I mean, the fact that they don't have Kubiak, that might be a positive for them.
The Packers are a big letdown. For you, for me, for everybody who picked them.
They're also the youngest team in the league.
And they're going to get older. They're going to get more experienced. And let's just be honest, Jordan Love was banged up the entire season.
All year.
So if he's healthy, he gives them a fighting chance. And
then they go get T. Higgins.
I've got the Lions ahead of the Packers next season. And that's because I truly believe in Dan Campbell's culture. I truly believe in what I've preached the entire season, that they built their roster the right way in terms of the line of scrimmage. They're ass kickers. I know that there's some holes there, and we've talked about it. The guard position, they've got some issues.
Left guard.
Center's good.
Right.
Tackles are good. Well, Taylor Decker's getting old.
Well, left guard's a problem. Right guard's a free agent. Left tackle's getting up in the years.
But I'll tell you this, Dan Campbell is going to instruct management to invest in that offensive line even more.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Because they got that guy, Jahmyr Gibbs, and he's special. Yep. You see what Saquon Barkley can do with an on-schedule run, turning it into a home run. They got the same thing there, just in a little bit lesser there with Jahmyr Gibbs.
And plus, they're going to be that much better because they get Hutchinson and McNeil back next year.
I haven't even mentioned the defense, but you're right. I mean, that defense had teeth, big-time teeth.
Like I always say, Aaron Glenn's a hell of a defensive coordinator. I'd rather play defense with Hutchinson and McNeil and not Aaron Glenn than have Aaron Glenn and not have Hutchinson and McNeil.
100%.
Absolutely.
Because it all comes down to Johnny's and Joe's.
Absolutely. Always does.
And having a guy who has the ability to motivate your group. And they have promoted somebody within their organization to be the defensive coordinator. I'm blanking on his name.
Yeah, but they also can. And here's the other thing. Hutchinson's the kind of guy that elevates everybody.
Yes.
Because when you win.
He's a coach on the field.
Correct.
Type.
Yeah.
And then Ravens.
Shepard is who they.
Shepard.
Yeah.
And
linebacker.
I loved him on Hard Knocks. I love the way that his group played. And he's a young guy. Totally fits that culture in
Former
terms
linebacker,
of player coach.
Played in the league.
I love that for Dan Campbell. And then I've got the Ravens, obviously, unless Lamar Jackson's been abducted by aliens, which he hasn't. He's going to be on the field next year for them. Derrick Henry, all the same cast of characters that figured out how to play good, solid defensive football for the Ravens. They're coming back for the most part. So I expect the Baltimore Ravens to be in that conversation. And then I've got number 2 as the Washington Commanders.
But you're basing that on the fact that they have a ton of money to spend. And
Commanders.
Yes.
And they have Jaden Daniels.
Right. But they got to get better at spots.
Jaden Daniels didn't shrink in the conference conference championship.
But they got to get better at a lot of spots.
They need to get a lot better at a lot of spots. Yeah. And they will. I trust in that organizational structure right now.
But that's a big jump up there to number 2.
I'll tell you what, they turned the ball over 4 times and none of them were Jaden Daniels' fault. They're going to find out how to take care of that football. They're going to find out how to cover people on the outside, and they're going to find out how to protect this guy, Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, and they see
what they have.
And they have, like I said, they have the ability to go spend in free agency and improve that team.
And number 1, the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen is undeniable. His talent, the way that his team rallies around him, the same things you say about Aiden Hutchinson on the defensive side of the ball, it's Josh Allen on the offensive side of the ball. I'm dear friends with Mitch Trubisky from my time in Chicago with him, and he's obviously the backup to Josh Allen. And I always ask my former teammates about their current teammates, and one of these guys that I ask about all the time is Josh Allen. And Mitch is like, as impressive as Josh Allen is physically, he is even more impressive mentally. his ability to compartmentalize, his ability to have that photographic memory that we hear Sean McVay lauded for oftentimes. You got a quarterback who's 6'7", 250 pounds, who has memorized every look you can give him. Now, obviously, the one look he didn't memorize was the look that Spags gave him on 4th and 5 with 3 minutes remaining in the ball game. Ended up bringing the cat blitz, and Josh and the Bills, they weren't ready for it from a protection standpoint. But I love the Bills there. That's our power ranking. So it's Bills, Commanders, Ravens, Lions, Packers, Texans, Vikings, Chargers, Broncos, and bringing up the rear of the Steelers.
Here's the thing about the Bills, and I picked them to go to the Super Bowl this year, and everybody said the window was closed this year. It's never closed as long as that guy's playing quarterback. But here's the other thing. At some point, you have to fix that defense. In 4 losses to the Chiefs, they've given up an average of 34 points, I think it is, in those 4 losses in the playoffs.
It was also the most efficient Patrick Mahomes had ever played. How much of it is the defense's fault? How much of it is just playing against Batman?
But also, that was the most points the Chiefs scored all year, right?
Because you got to be at your best when your best is needed.
But all I'm saying is, where was Von Miller? I thought Von Miller would have a day. Where was Greg Russo?
I'll give them credit. The interior of that defensive line really swole up against the Chiefs running game. And there was a number of times where the Chiefs running backs were hitting their head on the door, and the door was the offensive line that had no push. And that game had to come into Patrick Mahomes' hands. We had to distribute the football to a number of different receivers. Xavier Worthy had his best game. Hopkins had a big conversion when they needed it. Kelsey was nowhere to be found until that back shoulder ball on the right sideline. That's the Patrick Mahomes effect.
But also the Bills have been chasing the Chiefs, and to beat the Chiefs, you got to knock that guy down.
Yep.
And they did in that one situation where Phillips, just bull rushed into the backfield. But for the most part, the ends were a non-factor.
He took Caliendo on a Disney ride.
Yeah, he did. But you know that? The ends were a non-factor.
No.
They got caught inside a couple times. They've been addressing that position in the draft and free agency, and it hasn't worked.
Yeah.
Epinesa was a decent was he a 2nd-round pick, I think. They drafted Russo. They spent on Von Miller, and they still can't get him on the ground. Until you get that guy on the ground in a key situation and end the game, and end the game and don't allow him to go drive the ball down the field.
Kill the king to end the game at chess.
And they need that. They need corners. Because Benford, we don't know what he's going to be like now with concussion issues. And Douglas is
that was sad to see.
It was terrible.
And Romo hit him with the jinx.
Yeah, right before.
He was like, and love to see this guy making plays.
Yeah.
He's been out. Oh God, Jim. And Jim's
see it right away.
Tony, why'd you say that?
We saw it right away too.
Yes.
And Douglas is a free agent, so they got problems. They'll be back though.
I wish I could put the Bears on this list, but they weren't in the playoffs this year. So
now
we're
going anyways.